plays Laura Vega, Meagan Good. He is precog Dash Stark Sands. And also please welcome executive producer and showrunner Kevin Falls. Writer and executive producer Max Borenstein. And executive producer Darryl. Give it up for Minority Report. So this is a beloved movie for a lot of people. A lot of people in this room too. For the executive producers, I guess Kevin, starting with you, why was it the right time to make Minority Report into a television show?
Well, first of all, Fox told me to. I've been a huge fan of the movie for a long time, and actually really wanted to, when I heard that they were wanting to do a TV show, I said, God, I'd really like to do it. And I realized that I would have come up with a lean version of it. And then when they told me that this Godzilla guy wrote that movie, you may have heard of it, we got the gig, and then it started with the wonderful idea of starting with precogs. And I thought, I never would have thought that. And that's why Max is pushing the scene, and I'm carrying the bags.
Max, why did you want to start with the precogs?
Well, I loved the film so much, and I remembered it vividly. But when thinking about how do you evolve it, not just do the same thing, we've seen shows that have copied Minority Report since the movie, which is all about stopping crime, stopping murders before they happen. And in the movie, we follow the police department that has an infrastructure in place to do that. But at the end of the movie, that infrastructure collapses, and the precogs are sent into witness protection, essentially, to live in secret so that no one can find them because they would be taken advantage of. And that's the last shot of the movie, and I remember watching it and thinking, wait, that's a show. Like, I want to know what happens next as they become people.
Yeah. Darryl, were there aspects of the movie that you really, or themes that you wanted to replicate within this show, or parts that you wanted to kind of distance yourself from?
I think the things that we responded to and Steven responded to was really sort of what Max brought in, which was humanizing these precogs. That hadn't been done before. It was the best part of the last act of the movie. And you see Samantha Morton in it, and that was the thing that sort of sparked for Steven, and then also the ability to sort of reinvent the procedure, which could be a little bit staged, and being able to use sort of future tech and future crime to do surprising stories. That's really exciting as well.
Mm-hmm. Stark, what is it like to kind of go into a universe that's already, existing in film now, and as an actor, create this new character in this pre-existing universe?
It's really exciting. I was a big fan of the movie when it came out, and when I heard they were making a series, I was excited. So thrilled to be a part of it. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. I don't get to completely invent things, but I do get to sort of live in the world of what it would be like to have this superpower. Because that is really what it is. This is somebody who, whether he wants to or not, sees the future. Little things, and then most specifically, horrible murders. And so how can you live your life seeing those things and not wanting to do something about it? So it's a lot of fun, and just to be on a project that has Steven Spielberg's name above the title is pretty exciting.
Yeah. As an actor, what's the challenge for you to kind of humanize somebody with powers like that?
Well, the nice thing is that, as Max said, he sort of grew up floating in the milk bath, and then he was sent away to the equivalent of witness protection. So he doesn't interact with humans often. He sort of comes back to the city as you saw, and he doesn't really get sarcasm. He doesn't really get jokes when people make jokes. So it's fun to sort of grow from being that baby chick who is learning, and over the course of the series becomes a more fully realized human being.
Meagan, I have to say, I think the introduction of your character was one of the coolest scenes I've seen in a while. Just kind of analyzing that crime scene. What's it like? Is this a show with clearly a lot of technical aspects, a lot of stuff that gets added afterwards, but when you're filming a scene like that where you're kind of dependent on the technology, what's that like as an actor?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, we talked about it a lot, and especially Max and I, about what the language would be specifically, because there was such a specific language in the movie that we wanted to create that as well, and almost like an alphabet. And so as we did it, we literally into choreography that I practiced throughout the duration of filming, and we shot that film towards the end, that scene towards the end. But you're literally, you know, for me, being the character, I had to kind of relive the moment that the other person was having as, you know, someone was trying to kill her, in essence, and ultimately succeeded at doing that. And so you just have to act it out and believe that it's there and see it in your own eyes as much as you can, but it's a totally different experience when you see it on, you know, TV and you're like, wow, they did all of that stuff and literally like followed everything I did and created this thing. So it really was incredible to watch, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of it. So.
Actually, on the day that we were rehearsing, that scene did not have the choreography. Max started, we were in Toronto, we were on the set, and Max started moving around, and he started doing this, and Max gets really excited, and then we realized we got a choreographer, and we taught you to do it.
Yeah.
And we suddenly came up with this beautiful dance, and you did that.
And part of the fun of it is that it you know, it goes by so fast, but it's, you know, it's not magic. You know, as it's happening, it's all being built from the clues that are being collected by this all this data. And so it's almost if you pause it, you'll have a totally different experience and see all the little things like, you know, the thermal imaging and all of the, and sort of like a piece of DNA that's leading to this sort of idea that, oh, that's where the purpose is.
Yeah.
So seeing it all come together with Meagan
And it was
exciting.
That's what I thought was really brilliant that you come up with, was that the fact that the perp could actually come through me while I was being the victim at the same time. So if you look at the intricacies, it's really, really interesting. You gotta watch it a few times.
Yeah. I mean, do you and Wilmer get to use actual swipe screens when it comes to the precinct scenes, or are those all?
Yeah.
First of all, how are you guys doing today, man? We're all very excited to be here. I'm a big comic book freak myself. But how does it feel? I mean, it feels, it's interesting. You know, at the precinct we have the iconic device, right? The machine that allows us to investigate, to look closer, and to it's like a virtual magnifying glass, right? And interacts with you. And I think that, you know, what they did really well in the movie, and what I think Tom and Steven Spielberg did really well, was that they created a language, they created a dance that you could follow along, and that it was this unique collaboration between you and this computer, this machine that allowed you to look a little closer. And so it's fun. I mean, it's really fun. I mean, needless to say, it's a little technical in the room. You know, it's not as exciting as when you see it on screen. You know, to be completely honest, but it is fun when you can imagine that you're doing that iconic thing that you were doing in your living room and in your room in the backyard, thinking that you were Tom Cruise in the movie. You know, so that kind of makes it fun.
Now, playing a detective must be really cool, but playing a detective in the future has got to be amazing, especially when you're flying in on wires in this warehouse. Did you do any of that yourself, or were those all stunt guys?
Well, at that time when we were shooting, I really wanted to, but they really didn't let me. I still have a lot of show to shoot, but I was, you know, I have a lot of fun, and I think that, you know, obviously the jetpack scene in the movie was super cool, and I was like, I have to fly in a jetpack, man. Come on, you have to let me do it. And finally we did it. It looked amazing, you know. But I think that, you know, to your point, what's very exciting about what we're doing on the show is that, you know, we're also creating technology that probably evolved 10 years after the movie. You know, and especially in a world where, you know, as we can see, every 2 years technology jumps an extra 6 years, even 6 years that we're not even ready for that type of technology that we have in our hands now. But imagine in, you know, 2065, you know, how much faster would technology evolve, and you know, can we create a human race between the technology and you to kind of keep up with those tools? But it's fun. I mean, even I'm not allowed to say exactly the details of this, but Steven Spielberg had, you know, somehow created and pitched this idea of a weapon that could assist, you know, the police when he's out there on the field, you know. So I'm not allowed to say too much, but it's a weapon that's just kind of, it just blows your mind, the fact that you know, that maybe current events of today allowed you to create technology for the police to make less mistakes.
Interesting. And Laura, you have an interesting character too, because you're actually taking over a character that Samantha Morton played in the film. So what's that journey been like for you? Is there a challenge to kind of bring your own spin to this character of Agatha?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Samantha Morton was flat out brilliant in the film, and there's nothing that I can do to try to, replicate or assimilate that. I really have to take the rich mythology of the character that exists. And I mean, come on, it doesn't get any better than this for a character. You've got a character who was, from a very young age, sort of sedated, lying in a milk bath, haunted by these horrible visions, and what was that like as a childhood? So I kind of am working with that history and trying to figure out, for me, what's the legacy of that? Where does that take her? When the series starts, you see her as a recluse. She's basically, for her own sanity, decided to isolate herself completely so that she's not subject to these horrible visions. But, her brothers have taken a totally different path, and she's worried about them, and she cares about them, and for one way or another, she may well get thrust back into society, and the fact that she doesn't trust anyone out there because she was just exploited, I don't know what that will, maybe that will make her more calculating. Maybe she'll turn out to be, she'll be bitter about it, maybe she'll be more good-hearted about it, but I think she could go a lot of different directions.
Yeah. How would you describe her relationship with Dash?
I think I depend on him. I mean, when you see at the end of the film, we're in that little island, as we say, the sort of precog witness protection program, and he's all I know. I mean, we didn't have a normal childhood. We share a very strange history, and I depend on him for everything, I think. But I think it's like a brother, and I think I also have a little maternal feeling towards them. They're my twin brothers, and I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing. And I gotta look out for them, so.
Yeah. It also looked like there's definitely some past between Laura and Will. What can you say about that relationship, working relationship, and maybe
It depends on who you ask, right?
It does depend.
It varies, it depends on who you ask.
If you want the truth, ask me.
Oh, okay.
All right, so what's the truth?
Well, the truth is...
Is that the truth?
No, go ahead.
If you're going to tell the
No,
truth...
you first.
If you're going to tell the truth, go ahead.
See, we don't even have to write it.
Share your version.
It's just all real.
I mean...
Don't make it weird. Don't make it weird, man. Don't make it weird, man.
Well, I can tell you where it's going to go, because I've seen it all.
Okay. I'll start by saying that Vega and Blake may or may not have had something in the past. They kind of came out together in the ranks, and he got a promotion that she thinks she deserved.
That she did deserve and did the work for.
But it's really a fun dynamic because there's a lot of that kind of plays into it. And you kind of see it kind of leak through the screen a little bit, but it's fun because she may not want to admit this, but they're kind of brilliant together. They really do get each other. They really do respect each other. I was saying no nice things in my record. But I think that yes, there is a little bit of that history there, and you're going to see it play out throughout the season, and it may get into a work. Who knows?
Megan, anything to add?
No.
Well, there is also undeniable chemistry between Dash and Laura, I think, in the one scene that we've seen so far. How does Dash's introduction to her world kind of rock her world in a way? Does it?
Yeah, it does, because there is this tenderness to her, there is this softness to her that people don't ever really see, and somehow he begins to tap into that. At the beginning, initially, she doesn't really understand that he is very childlike, and he hasn't experienced the world at all. So all of this is very new for him. So the jokes that she says, or the way that she kind of handles him, goes a little bit over his head. But you see, as time goes on, just him being himself starts to break that kind of hard shell, and she starts to, care for him, and also, they want to protect each other ultimately because they both want the best, and they really want to do the right things, and they want to change the world, and they connect over that.
They want the same thing. In the end, she longed for the days of pre-crime, and that's what got her started in the force in the first place. But of course, as soon as she graduated to the force, they shut it down. That was the end of the movie. So when she recognizes me in that, the next thing that happens to give it away, she recognizes who I am. And that's when the partnership happens. And it's an uneasy one at first because I don't know who I can trust. My sister is the only person I know that's been out in the world. I haven't done it yet. which is probably why Agatha is wary of me doing this. But I haven't experienced it for myself. And as a little brother who wants to like do it on my own and I don't need your advice, it makes sense. So I'm wary, you know. I think it's a very fortuitous pairing and potentially very fruitful.
Yeah. Kevin, it's a great partnership, and are you going to be playing with the romantic aspect of it at all?
But between these two characters, probably not.
Okay.
That's what we certainly don't plan to do it. We approached this in a way that we wanted to do it kind of a fresh way, which is he's the first time he's actually talked to a woman at any length in quite some time. So we didn't want it to turn into one of those romantic two-handers. If it takes us there at some point in a few years, that's fine. But we wanted that to be more about them trying to. We don't solve crimes on the show. We try to stop murders. So our show doesn't start with a dead body. It's actually making sure there isn't one at the end of the show. We start with a dead body division. So it's the job. That said, there's a great chemistry between them that's not necessarily romantic. It's just that because he's the fish out of water and she's the streetwise cop, we try to do it in a fresh way.
Yeah. We've discussed Steven Spielberg's name on this panel, and you know, he's the director of the movie, of course. And Darryl, what's his involvement with the show? Is he involved in the day-to-day processes?
Yeah, he's involved in every aspect of it. I mean, there's not a person on this panel that wasn't hired by him, but everything from our director, Mark Mylod, who worked with us on the United States of Terror before we did The Affair and Game of Thrones, and the DP, David Franco, who came up with Game of Thrones, who Steven was tracking, and our production designer. I mean, every aspect. I mean, 48 hours after he wrapped BFG, he was in a room with these guys working on stories and arcs.
And pitching prop ideas and
Set
concepts.
design and visual effects, and sprinkles his pixie dust on everything. But you know, it's the first film he directed that we're doing as a television show, so it keeps us all up at night to make sure that
We were no pressure.
we
We were in the room with him. We all went. All the writers went. And like when I'm in the room, Max and I are in a room, we'll talk, and maybe one or two writers will take notes. Steven speaks, and you see 12 pens, just like the writing on everything he says. And he added so much to the show, and you know what? Infused it, I think, with we're a serious show. We're a real fun show. For the show, you watch with a bowl of popcorn, and it's certainly going to have the stakes, but it's just going to be a real entertaining show, thanks to him and his input.
A guest director for an episode, maybe?
maybe.
We can afford it.
Well, Max, I'm curious too. We were talking a little backstage. How much of a Bible and of a backstory of this world and these characters did you create before even sitting down to start to write this pilot?
Well, really, one of the first things we did was start to think about the world, and we really created a world Bible, which was written by our consultant who was at the MIT Media Lab, who interviewed just a wealth of incredible scientists at the sort of the head of their fields, in various fields, and asked them, what's the world going to look like in 50 years, which is the same thing that Steve did for the movie, and it's the reason why we remember movies as being so accurate and predictive in so many ways. It's the first place that we saw those kind of gesture screens, and which we now have on our cell phones, and it's the first place that we saw that kind of advertisements that target you and talk to you, and so that's why, you know, we wanted to talk to these people, and we've really assembled a whole vision of the world that is, for the writers now, just so much fun to play with, and ask ourselves, you know, what's it going to be like, and then how is that fun? How is that witty, or how does the technology not quite work, or, you know, and really reflect on our world today.
Yeah. For the actors, is there a piece of technology in the show that you would like in your real life, in your real everyday life?
The selfie drone.
Why?
Because I'm really bad at selfies. I'm getting better at it, but my sister, I mean, she can take a picture that's a selfie that you don't even know where her hands are to take the picture. It's the oddest thing. So I would be looking forward to the selfie drone so I can fly over there and take the picture for me.
I mean, we can give you a list if you need.
I want that thing that makes the person just disappear where you press the button and they're talking and you can just like make them go sometimes, not all the time, sometimes.
I wanted a jetpack.